What's going on, guys? Sorry for the little bit of late start this morning. This is the DeFi Crypto Line show where we do our best to be the bridge between our fellow real estate investors, entrepreneurs alike, and the cryptocurrency world. Because you guys know the routine. Cryptocurrency is the biggest opportunity, and we're moving into the part of the market where we should theoretically see the most violent move to the upside as we near the end of the bull run, whenever that may be. So welcome along. We're pumped to have you guys. Corey, take it away.
Absolutely, Corey Geary here. And guys, I just dropped the StreamYard. This is Open Mic Friday. So come on and let's rap and talk about all the things that we've been talking about. Or if you got something else on your mind, we're more than happy to talk about them. It's interesting because we had a show yesterday. And on that show, I don't know how the topic came up, but we were talking about how Hexton seemed like it was going to be the one to be the one that's going to be the spotlight would be on for this market cycle. And we see yesterday, in my opinion, what pumped hard with even with a wallet that we may or may not know be attached to the OA. We don't know, but it could be. But PulseX pumped really hard. Yeah, not really hard, but it pumped good. It pumped good. And then what I noticed, Dane, was the OA or the wallet associated deal. I don't even know. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm just a dude on the internet speculating. But I noticed Inc. pumped almost as hard, even though that was not the token being bought. So that's interesting. You can say, oh, well, that's hard slaw. Okay, hard slaw. Like, okay, well, then why didn't Hex pump? Why didn't Pulse pump? And then people say, well, people were dumping Pulse. Okay, so what about Hex? Let's look at Hex. There's plenty of liquidity bonding between those two, and Hex's liquidity is really thin. It's thinner than the Inc token. So in theory, Hex should have pumped harder than the Inc token if you were only going off of hard slaw. So what that told me, Dane, is that what we were talking about yesterday, how the market favors Inc, PulseX, and they're kind of a bit of the chosen one. It once again validated my point. Now, it doesn't mean that in the future the sentiment can change. Doesn't mean that there could be a massive. Maybe Godwell comes in and absolutely just starts buying all that available supply of Hex off the market. We don't know, right? You just don't know what these events can happen. And Godwell could do that. We've seen Godwell do these similar actions before in the past. And so being that, but what the average market or just the kind of the overall market, we'll say the overall market, if I were to take out any kind of massive whales that we can't plan on, because you can't plan on those. Like, it's hard to plan on around a massive whale doing something, but just overall market sentiment and what it's kind of showing us is that, man, guys, Inc and PulseX. I don't know what else to say. I did a DCA. It's funny, man. I didn't like try to front run anything. I ended up doing a DCA after our show yesterday because our show made me bullish. So I got up and I did a DCA. I bought. Guess what I bought, Dane? Inc and PulseX. What pumped? Inc and PulseX. I was like, I feel like a hero, right? You're all pumped up. You're
Corey is the OA. It's been,
but once again, I don't know, man. And I was hoping Briz could hop on today because I would love to talk about some of the sentiment with Briz because he had some theories, which I love hearing his theories because he's a smart guy, dude. Brizology is a smart guy. He's got a lot of patience for the market. He's got a lot of patience for the crypto Twitter guys. I love the guy. And so I hope he hops on today and we could talk about some of his theories with Hex and think some of those things through. But man, I'm just going to keep DCing into PulseX and Inc right now until proven right. Because I'm not giving rid of my bags. Not unfortunately, but my Pulse bag is overweighted anyways. Because when we were going through that SEC, the bottoming of like the complete depression, like I didn't know what would pump. I didn't have any of these signals. So what was I buying? I was just buying Pulse, man. I was buying Pulse by like another 10,000, another 20,000. Like I was just buying it, right? Like during that time, and I wasn't buying anything else. And so now I'm heavy weighted there and they're all node validators. I'm just going to leave them in there and keep allocating over here. I feel like we have more time. Like I don't feel like we're going to shoot up to the moon overnight. I got plenty of time to kind of keep allocating those bags. But now my hex bag, Dane, my liquid hex bag, not my stakes. I do have stakes, and I have some HSIs that I have, and I like those HSIs. They're cool. I mean, we'll see what happens. Those are my hedge against if I'm wrong about it. But my hex bag's getting kind of light in relevance to all the other ones now. I'm like, wow, if I was trying to even them out, I'd be like trying to, I guess, allocate more to hex, and I don't think I'm going to, man. I think I'm just going to keep allocating to ink and pulse hex. That's my sentiment. I hope Briz comes on here and argues with me. We got Norbert. Norbert's always got some good thought processes. I love Norbert. He's a show regular, and we appreciate that, good sir, that you are a show regular, and all you guys who are show regulars. And come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about, why did they OA, or not the OA, I should stop saying that. Why did the wallet associated to, we think maybe could be the OA, why did he sell 555 PDI for Pulse X? Too, that's another talking point that I would love to speculate, guys. We're not like going to sit here and argue. We're just going to speculate our thoughts on this. It's good to get to have a good grown-up conversation versus yelling at each other and calling each other names on Twitter. Like, let's have a conversation about it. Like, I want to know your thoughts. What was he? Was it a signal, or was it just like, oh, somebody sent him the 5555 PDI, and he's like, wow, I don't want this, and he immediately sends it out. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? So, Norbert, what up, bro, man? How you doing, dude? You're not at the gym, or are you at the gym? I think I see you are at the gym, man. You're beefing it up, bro. I like it, man. You're a good example of what people should be doing in the bear market. Like, get your health right, right? Get your mindset right. Go out there and make money. Do things that helps you add stability to your life versus hanging out in crypto Twitter all day and calling each other names. What's up, bro? What's your thoughts, man?
Thank you. Well, that's definitely not healthy for anyone for hanging too much on Twitter, that's for sure, and reading other people's opinion and arguing about meaningless points, because the situation can, and the sentiment, you picked the really right word previously, a few minutes ago, that the sentiment can change so quickly and swiftly. So then whatever you were talking about yesterday is irrelevant, because, those days are gone. Now we have this sort of new direction, new charts, which takes me to the next point, that charting too long back, especially crypto assets, or even any daily assets, is it shouldn't be. We shouldn't put that much importance. I love these things. We shouldn't put too much on those importance for these things, because sentiment can change easily. Again, gold yesterday was extremely valued, and everyone was buying it, and today was like, literally went from 2,365 to all the way to 2,325. $40 difference. A gold price is quite significant. If you have a large sum of it, it's big chunk of change. And the fact is that it changed within a matter of 2 hours, let's say. You see, like 2 hours, and then you lost so much of that bullish sentiment that, we're gonna reach new highs from that point onwards, because it looked like we're gonna go higher, but then no, we went lower because a news came out, a PMI report or whatever today, and then it was not what the market was expecting, and everyone was selling gold. Gold was the same thing yesterday as is today, but the sentiment changed. So the same thing can apply to any of our assets, what we are in right now, that maybe people don't value HEX that much right now, but it can change. It can change.
I still value it, and I have a bag of it. Like, I don't like it. I just don't think it's, in my opinion, going to be the winner at the end of the cycle, but I could also be wrong. I'm not here to be right or wrong. Yeah, you're right. Like I said, Godwell could come in and start buying it up, and he could keep massively buying up all the supply And when people are dumping, he could be buying it. I mean, he's done it before. Will it happen again? I don't know. But it's hard to speculate on the whales because you can't really. How do you make a decision around that? But yeah, I did.
I'm heavy on Ink and Pools X as well. Those assets are really good. Really good.
What a good one.
Well,
you must be watching our show.
Yeah, I do watch your show. That's for sure. But yeah, not significantly. But I put in as much change as I could back in the days, and
I got a very interesting chart I want to show you guys, and if I see Sprack Burger in the comments, I would love to see if I would love to know his thoughts on this chart, and it's very interesting because I love looking at data. I know Dane's a data freak. And this here is a very interesting, let me see if I can get it up. Boom. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see it?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, perfect. So some interesting things here to notice, and this was dropped in Hans' chat on Twitter, and Hans gave it a praise. And so being that Hans gave it a praise, I was like, oh, well, I probably should try to look at that and dissect it a little bit. Some things to notice here is, he has some fib extensions drawn here. And at the 0.888, which is the deep value zone on the fib, that's where we're floating on that particular support. And the really interesting thing that I took notice is from the all-time basic all high, it looks like the high or maybe right before the all-time high, all the way to the bottom this last time was 103 days. Well, that's where we're at right now. From the all-time high to today, where we're floating, looks like it's at 103 days. Another thing I took notice is we see bullish divergence right around the same time zones on this chart. And so it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bottom, but I think we've bottomed. Once again, you guys have heard me say it many times on the show, but I could be totally wrong, and I'm okay with that. The guys don't go be buying and aping in because I said it's bottom. This doesn't mean DCA is still king, right? Put a bullet in, wait, see if it goes lower. That's always king. But this was very interesting data points that I like to see, because even underneath this 0.888 level, that's the next zone. And that was the all-time bottom here. And so I don't know. Do we go down in that zone? Maybe. Or do we not? We stay here on top of support. It's a very interesting chart. I really like it. And yeah, what are your thoughts, Dane?
I mean, all you can do is largely go off data and sentiment, right? The data's looking pretty good. I think, yeah, you're looking at it, and I don't think it's the craziest idea to keep something on the side in the event that we go down deeper.
Always.
But man, in general, I want to see, a W out of here. I want to see more than one pump. And to your point, it's really, so I looked at this. So if you look at Pulsex with that pump, you had a 7, and once again, this is rough. So you had about 18% on Pulsex. On Ink, you had a 13, almost 14%.
This yesterday, Dane?
Yep.
You're looking at? Okay.
On Hex, you had a 5% pump, and on Pulse, you had a 3% pump based upon those buys.
There was a big seller on the Pulse side.
Yep, which is really interesting. And so, yeah, man, at what point, so if you're in charge of the ecosystem, are you looking to balance out some of those, some of those ratios to a place that you like them better? What does that look like? Where is that balance? I think it's interesting to consider. You're also looking at the liquidity. Ink has almost $27 million of liquidity. Pulsex, 36 million. Pulse, 29 million. And Hex, 17 million. Hex is still the one that's the most thin theoretically. It could run harder in that respect, but it's also the one that, that I think you have the most PTSD buyers around. It has the most stakers. You have money coming out. You still have a lot of rewards coming from the ink token. But I'm telling you, I just think there's less PTSD around that. I think people are less anxious to go sell it because they haven't been holding it for 3 years with down only. You know what I mean?
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Frank, conversations, bro. What up with you today? You are on mute, good sir. Still on mute.
For some reason.
Now we can't see you.
All right. For some reason, I have this screen in front of me, but it doesn't work with StreamYard. So, yeah. Hey, guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I really always look forward to this. It's awesome. So thank you. Welcome back, Dane.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wait, what was your question?
What? Well, we've had a lot of it. Questions.
Oh, I don't think it really matters whether we bottomed or not, because even if we haven't, it's not that much further down. I don't think.
That's what I think too.
And I think that, I keep hearing we could be this way for the next couple of months, and it is what it is. And with all the coins, and you do start to wonder, like, man, like Hex Monkey put in the chat, like, I love this that I can DCA more in, but then you're like, I'd like to have to stop doing that.
I know. Same here.
You're like, wait a minute, it's like Groundhog Day all over again. And so yeah, so but all the cryptos kind of dealing with this right now too. There's a lot of coins that I have outside of the RH ecosystem that are, they're struggling. So I think it's a matter of when the Ethereum ETF starts working, that's going to help. I mean, there's a lot of upside. That's all I can say is we got such a high upside that potential and price discovery with a new ecosystem. I mean, that's the thing you can hang your hat on right now. It's just in the intention of that,
I agree 100%, man, especially if we can get in that price discovery zone, which I think we can, man, with all, like I talk about all the time, all rocket thrusters, all 4 rocket thrusters firing off at the same time. We could maybe get up there. Sprack Burger, man, what is your thoughts of that chart I just showed? Should I pull it up again? Do you want to look at it?
No, I saw it. Looks good. I tend to agree.
Okay.
We're sitting on a major support level. So yeah. And,
but it could be smashed down deeper.
Oh yeah, of course. When you're a chartist, you automatically assume that it's a game of probabilities and that this one could not work out, and you go from there, right? So what I do like is that it is going sideways and not down anymore. And I know that we looked at a chart, I think maybe like a few weeks ago, and you were like, hey, is this the bottom? Should we be buying? And I wasn't quite sure yet because we need to get that capitulation, and then we need to be somewhere near a support level, and then maybe at a fib level. So once you start confluencing and you start stacking all of those elements on top of each other, and then you start to accumulate sideways, that to me is now a potential buying opportunity. So yeah, at this moment, I'm flipping to bullish, and quite possibly accumulating. I'm still above where I bought, but I may buy more just because of how distressed it is versus some of the other assets that I have that I think maybe are already too expensive. So Pulse and PulseX are pretty cheap, and those would be the two that I'm accumulating at the moment.
Which ones do you think are too expensive, Sprack?
Other ecosystems.
Like which ones?
DWB.
No, that's not a different ecosystem.
That's been retracing too, Norbert. I think it's back in like down 60% or something.
Doesn't matter what the price is, but it's still expensive than what it should be.
Well, that's a subject to opinion.
Yeah.
Like
quit putting my bags, man.
Like meme coins, right? There's no real market value for them other than what the market assigns to them. So there's no such thing as what do they say? There's no wrong time to buy. There's just a wrong time to sell. So you could buy anything and you could sell anything. I don't care what it is. It could be a pickle jar in Alaska, but it doesn't matter. If you can make money off of it, you can make money off of it. But what I'm saying is that in other ecosystems like gaming, AI, memes, layer twos, I see a really good opportunity in the Pulse Chain ecosystem.
I like it.
I think those have like either they kind of already pumped extremely hard, and then they need to go through their reaccumulation phase. So yeah,
I like it, man. Yeah, I like all the indicators, everything telling us that that this could be it. Assuming Rackham doesn't go in there and sell like billions and billions of Pulse and Pulse X. Yeah, I feel confident accumulating here too. I accumulated yesterday morning, in fact, before the buy-in started, and that was by accident. That was very, very happy when I saw that happen. I was like, oh wow. So yeah, it's interesting, man. I'm all about. What is your thoughts, Sprack, on? I'd be interested from a chartist perspective, the way Hex looks, specifically more P Hex. I know we can talk about E Hex, and I own some E Hex, but P Hex, how it looks versus and how it's not like holding strength versus like Pulse X and Ink. What's your just some thoughts on that?
I would try to chart it against Pulse. And so like in this ecosystem, yeah, it's wrecked. So you would chart it against Pulse, and then you would just say, so in this ecosystem, Pulse is the reserve asset.
Right.
And so you don't buy anything other than else until you see it perform well against Pulse. Right. And so like if you find a bottom on Hex, not against the dollar, but against Pulse. And if you start seeing an accumulation range, we saw something similar with Pulse X. And so like if you look at the Pulse X versus Pulse chart, then you can make a better decision. But at the moment, there's not much of a decision to make on P Hex until again you see like some sort of an accumulation range.
That was Sprackburger's way of fudding it. I'm joking.
I mean, I like I said, I bought the bottom of the bottom of the bottom at a discount, and people sold me their staked, T-shares at 80% discount. So
I was buying that with you. Remember that?
And we got copies on both sides.
Yeah,
so,
we did.
So I don't really care at the moment. You know what? To me, Hex could stay the same price for the next 15 years, and I'm golden.
And can I just add something to this conversation, this thought what you're having, because it's extremely interesting and fascinating. Since I've been learning and doing trading, I noticed one thing. We shouldn't really rely too much on charts, because many times out of nowhere something can just turn around and go to the other way. There was no order block there. There was no fair value gap there. There was no support or resistance or whatever you want to call it, the key areas. Nothing. Out of nowhere on the chart, you just seen a engulfing candle, and then we started going to the other direction. Why? There was nothing indicating that we're going to turn around and go. Sentiment, news, development.
But
a worse situation. So we can look at charts probably on shorter terms when you want to get in and out, what you want to do. But on longer terms, I wouldn't write something off just because it's not doing something at a certain key level. And like I said, gold shows you several times that, that's one of the most we trade, but we trade other things as well.
Well,
And
I'm
all
gonna.
do the
but
same.
Sprack, wouldn't you say that you don't need the news? You only need the charts.
Well, you only need yourself and your process, and I think Norbert's right. You do not rely on just the charts. As a matter of fact, you rely on your process. You rely on you, and only you, and your system, and your risk controls. And so, like you say, am I buying this level? Yes. Okay. How? And you have to exercise risk management. You have to understand what size you're going to buy at this level, and you have to understand when you want to, when you think you're wrong, and when you want to get out or when you want to scale in. So he's right. You don't rely on the charts. The charts are just kind of like, hey, take a look at this. But then it's your process. It's like how you do these things, because like he said, a large position player could just come in and crush it in either direction. And at the same time, it's like when the chart's moving up into resistance, what are you going to do at that point? Are you going to take profits, or are you going to sit there holding your bags saying, I'm in love with this thing? And
I've done that.
Right. So don't fall
every day. I look at my portfolio like my love of my life.
Don't fall in love with your bags. Don't fall in love with your bags.
Well, I can't do anything anymore because it's so wrecked. Like I just
Right.
feel sorry for her to leave her. I have to spend the rest of my life with her at the moment. So.
Right. I mean, yeah. There's a lot to this, and so like when we were talking about Hex earlier, like that Hex chart. So, I'm perfectly fine with where it's at, even though it's wrecked. I'm perfectly fine with where it's at because of the size that I bought, and also because of how long I'm possibly staked. And so again, you approach that with a process, and you say, okay, how much can I afford to lose on this? And you just go from there. And then you say, okay, if I'm buying this with the right hand, what am I doing with the left hand? And so I'm hedging it. And so like, okay, if I'm hedging this product with this other product, then one of them can fail and one of them can succeed and I win. And again, we're not here to be right and wrong. We're here to make money.
Yeah, and
exactly.
It's interesting too, while you were saying that, Sprack, is, and you hear this a lot, like the prices can go a lot lower than we can ever imagine. Kind of like right now, like I never imagined this.
None of us
will go a lot higher than we ever imagined. So let's hope that the opposite plays out, in this scenario.
Here's an interesting chart. I mean, looking at Hex versus Pulse. This is the weekly. I mean, you're bound, at least right now, you're bouncing off the what do I have here?
Well,
you're
almost
bouncing off the 0.86. You're flipped green right now. If you did want to come in and scoop some up, that's a pretty interesting little candle that's popping up there
on the weekly, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Let's see if it closed it green on the week, because that would be a very bullish sentiment.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
No one sell this weekend, please. No one.
Hey, hey, Dane, you got the chart up. Can you do us a favor? Can you chart the fib extension from the bottom of that previous low to the top of? Yeah, grab that bottom and move it over to the recent low.
Oh, this one over here?
Yeah, the bottom right there. And then pull the top over to that red doji candle.
This one right here.
Right,
you want the top of the
wick?
wick?
Right there. Yeah, perfect. All right. And then so now look at where we have a 618 to 0.786 level. This is kind of a golden pocket here, kind of an institutional level. that we used to look at. And when price would pull back here, so it found a bottom and it pumped up, and now it's looking for a higher low. And so if we can get buyers stepping in, which we're seeing a green candle, so that tells us that buyers are stepping in. If you can kind of like look at this chart, which is like a weekly chart, and then you say, all right, can I find a similar pattern on a lower time frame, like on a daily chart, and you start to see the buyers stepping in, then this could be a good hold level for the short term and start to trend up. But yeah, this could be a higher low in a 1, 2, 3 pattern that could possibly form a W. And again, exercise risk control, say, okay, am I comfortable deploying capital now? And you do small amounts at these levels, because again, you can find a lower level. So
I think it's a great point. So there's our bullish sentiment on Hex. We're looking like good. I mean, you're getting a little bit of a reversal here on the daily. It'll be interesting to see if it'll wake up and do something here. It's good.
Is it bullish enough, Dane, for you to sell all your ink into Hex now?
No, not even close. No.
No. And I wouldn't sell all anyway. But some of them maybe.
Here's an interesting one. Was this Oliver or K Crypto that mentioned the SEC case? Yeah, SEC resolution. I mean, here's the thing is SEC resolution would be big, but I think that I don't know. What's your guys' feelings? I think it's less likely than more likely to actually have this resolved before, on the basis that the bull run ends sometime, maybe next year at some point. I don't know. I'm just shooting from the hip here. I think it's less likely that it gets resolved before then and more likely that it does not. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Does anybody know the facts? Like what's the, probability? Like, is there anybody in the chat that like, anyway,
are you talking about clarity, regulatory clarity?
Yeah.
I think the ETH investigation was dropped because, there's a lot of speculative reasons why, but in my opinion, I don't think they were able to fight it as it was already trading as a futures product in the CFTC. So it was already being traded by the Commodities and Futures and Trading Commission, and ETH had already been deemed sufficiently decentralized. So there's a couple of key. Again, you're talking about the verbiage, the technical language that's being used by governments and 3-letter agencies and whatnot. And so, like, if there's people that are thinking, why don't they have an ETF for like Solana or for some of these other ones? I don't think we're quite there yet. Anything's possible, but those systems are not sufficiently decentralized yet. And then people were saying, oh yeah, same thing with XRP's next, because it's not, they lost the lawsuit, and XRP is not a security. However, the initial funding round was a security, and I think they have to pay fines for that kind of stuff. But XRP is not sufficiently decentralized. The Ripple Corporation still dumps every year on the reason the price chart of XRP. We got to learn from this. Because the reason the XRP chart does not go up is because their internal CEOs keep dumping on the investors.
Yeah.
And so we have something similar in other ecosystems, right? Like in Pulse Chain, we have the large sacrifice wallets that keep dumping and rinsing out the price. And so price won't go up until we kind of get rid of some of these guys. And Ripple is seeing the same sort of situation where the CEOs, they each have like $100 million plus portfolios, but their investors are wrecked. So when you have a system like that and it's apparent, it's going to be very difficult for the SEC to say, it's not a security, or to even talk about putting it into an ETF or calling it a commodity. So they're not going to call it a commodity until it's sufficiently decentralized. And then same thing with like let's just say Solana. Well, they still have to get their Firestarter client uploaded, because right now it's too centralized. They could turn off the chain. And once Firestarter gets up and going, and then they start adding more clients, and then they start decentralizing like the validator structure, then they can't turn it off. And then it is decentralized. And then once some of the VCs start to slowly, well, actually, you know what? Having VCs isn't necessarily a centralized problem. It's more about what's in the Solana Foundation, and they've slowly been losing. Well, not losing, but they've slowly been distributing a lot of their tokens to the validator system. And so they're bootstrapping it in that regard. So there's a plus and a minus to that. The plus is that it's artificially held at very inexpensive transaction fees, and sort of like propping up the validators to push the transactions through, because that's why your transactions are cheap on Solana, is because the Solana Foundation is paying them your fee. And so when they stop doing that, then the fees get stuck, or the transactions get stuck. And then you have things like where you had a weekend where like people weren't getting their transactions through. And so again, centralized, right? So it's going to be very difficult to have these things become whatever you want to call it, securitized or just ETF or commoditized, if it's too centralized. So again, we're early. We're really early to all this stuff.
Yeah. What do you think about Pulse Chain, man? I mean, we're decentralized in the manner that we have 50,000 node validators spread throughout the entire world. But the coins themselves, they could point to, obviously the origin address and say, hey, you're centralized there. I'm wondering what the thought process would be there, because technically the chain is decentralized, in my opinion, because the way the node validators are, and there's not like the centralized ownership of the node validators.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think Pulse Chain is probably the most decentralized chain.
But will they see it that way? Because the coins,
they won't. From a development point of view, it is the most decentralized project out there on the market. But it is one of the most centralized ownerships in terms of like how much the OA has, and they will not get over that. They won't get over that. So that's going to be difficult, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need a Pulse Chain ETF, although that would freaking be crazy, but would be nice to have the clarity around it.
What I do like about these filings is that, and I think we were talking to one of the other guys in the Tuesday Mastermind. It was really great insight. They're going to have ETFs for some of this stuff. They're going to have ETFs for ETH, BTC. I'm now seeing a filing for a BTC and Ethereum together in one ETF. And what's good about that?
Yeah, like an S&P 500. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, what's good about that is that they're going to start creating these multi asset ETFs, and so now you're going to have indexes. And so, so what I
can have an altcoin.
And then they're also filing for staked Ethereum ETFs. And so now you have a yield bearing product where the you buy the ETF, and that company or that entity goes out and stakes your Ethereum for you, and they could publicly disclose how much they're staking, what their validator node looks like. They could be audited. This could all be regulated, and they could share that yield with the Ethereum, with the participants in that ETF. And so now you have a yield bearing product, and now you have like this access to DeFi, to the traditional markets. And so it's like, these are just stepping stones. And eventually there will be some sort of crypto fund out there that goes out and buys these things. And again, you don't need to call it a security because they're buying it for you. The security is the ETF. And so some of them could actually have an allocation to Pulse Chain at some point because they're buying it.
Yeah, like an altcoin index.
Well, remember, Grayscale was doing this a long time ago before BTC and ETH were deemed commodities by the CFTC.
Way before.
So that this can happen for any token, any ecosystem, but we're spearheading it with the main two assets, which is BTC and ETH. And so
you could call it the alternative layer 1 index, and maybe there's AVAX in there, maybe there's Phantom, which will be the new Sonic, maybe there's obviously Solana, then Pulse Chain, and I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about, though.
Can I just say something on Sprek? Really good analogy, and opening up our brains to connect the dots. Before I forget my thought, if you think about what the SEC and all these regulators they're trying to achieve, is what they say is to protect investors, customer funds. So if you look, I know.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead with your thought process.
That's what they say. But let's say in an ideal world that's the case, then look around on the cryptos, and Sprek pointed out really well that Solana is standing on really weak legs because you kind of need another entity to keep the music going. It's like the Federal Reserve need to buy the bonds from the government to keep the ball rolling in the USA. Everyone knows that. I mean, many people know that. So if you think like that and looking through all the cryptos, I strongly believe that Hex has a good chance of not just surviving from this point, but even thrive, because it's perfectly designed. You can say that the OA has a lot of Hex in their bags, and
That's never bothered me.
But that's the thing, because if you look at time, for example, whoever controls that OA thing, or even Richard could have done things, but he's never done it. So that for the chance to happen is like we talk about, the asteroid can hit us tomorrow. Yeah, there is a chance that the asteroid is going to hit us tomorrow. But am I going to worry about that asteroid, that I'm going to die because of that? No, I'm not going to do that. So if you look at it that way, then maybe the OA can burn. If we reach that level, when we go to that regulatory level, the OA can just simply say, oh yeah, if that's what you want to do, that you give your blessings, and it's going to be accepted as a tradable asset on the stock market, and it's kind of ETF and whatever. And you know what? Fine, let's burn all these tokens. Whatever is left, the contract is going to do it. The staker is going to do it. The T-shirt is going to do it. So if you think about that, it's no human interaction. There's no interference in that. So that can turn the table very quickly. What do you think?
I've thought
good,
about
not good
analogy earlier this week. I watched a really good documentary on Tom Cruise called The Last Movie Star, and I see parallels in Tom Cruise's life and Richard Hart. Both high performers, drivers, and there was a time where, and I'm just using short periods of time for Richard Hart versus longer periods of time for Tom Cruise. So from like Top Gun, Risky Business, all the way up to the mid 90s, his career was on fire, right?
Those are great movies.
Just a string of great movies. And then he had some flops, and they were creative choices that he chose to take. And then there was bad sentiment about him for years about, being in, what do you call it? Scientology. And then, all of a sudden he's back on top. It took quite a while to become back on top, but man, when you're back on top like him, you're up in a huge way. And I think that's like it's massive. It's absolutely massive, especially with what Top Gun Maverick did 2 years ago. And the guy, in my opinion, I used to think, oh yeah, it's Tom Cruise, but it's amazing what he's accomplished. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. And I do think that Richard Hart can do a pullout here with his tokens, and things can, he can have a massive upward trend here. And his downward trend is not that long as Tom Cruise's was, but I think that the trend for Richard can be on the upside massive.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Frank. And like, we're trying to evaluate all this stuff before it's perfect.
Yeah.
And like we're
speculating for fun.
Right. And like we were talking about, like, oh yeah, there's problems with Solana. It has this, it has this, it has this, right? Well, what's going to happen once it fixes all of its issues and all of its bugs and this and that, and then it'll be trading at a different valuation. But by then, it's too late, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with Amazon, same thing with Google, same thing with Microsoft.
That's it.
Apple experienced a 95% drawdown, and they fired Steve Jobs. Like, they were in the shit, and they had to borrow money from Bill Gates to plug the hole. And the agreement was that you guys aren't going to do any software, and then we're just going to do the hard. So like every major company that you see, like the best companies, have all had a significant pullback in terms of price, stock, not just the stock price, but just like their overall sentiment. And all of these things, if you wanted to buy them at their most depressed state, that's when the most upside potential is. But again, we exercise risk controls. You don't go all in. You say, okay, look, if for some reason this thing does 100x or 1000x, then you really only need to put in 1% of your net worth into it, because at that point it 10x is your whole portfolio. So again, risk controls, guys, risk controls. You have to, yeah.
You're gonna have to add a couple zeros for me, man.
But there you go. 100% of your net worth into. But hey, you know what? If you do, and here's the thing: if you put like 100% of your net worth into like that one single asset, and it absolutely skyrockets, do not, for any reason, think that you're a genius. You got lucky, and
I love that
you're like, no. I did the research. No. You got lucky, and if you had hedged in some way or bought an insurance product against that bet, then that would have been a smarter play. Again, nobody knows the future. When we chart, we just say, hey, look, this is a game of probabilities, and anything could happen. And so you just want to have an edge. And again, it's like, if you have the opportunity to have like 100x on a particular asset, you don't need to put as much into it. That's all I got to say.
Agreed. Except for I build my portfolio where if I get a 10x, you guys are going to be coming out to Puerto Rico to visit me, okay?
Same here.
Yeah, I want to visit you guys, that's for sure. Puerto Rico on my list. Would be nice to meet you in person.
It would be fun, man. It'd be a great time. I'm planning on going to the October thing. Are you guys planning on that? The October event?
I don't know. I'm undecided.
It's kind of close by you, Frank, ain't it? That's right up the coast for you.
Where's it at?
It's
New York.
Yeah, it's in New York.
It's for the hearing. They're also going to do a Pulse Chain tour, the Hex conference. I think they're doing everything. Like, it's like they're doing the whole enchilada there, so they can get as many people to show up as possible. And that's why I want to go. I just want to go out there, for support, meet as many of you guys as I possibly can, because I like meeting you guys in person. I mean, this is fine, but this in person is so much better, right? So yeah, I'll be there for it. It'll be fun.
Do you have the dates?
It's the end of October. I feel like it's October 24th is the hearing. I'm not sure what the technical Pulse Chain conference, is scheduled for and how that works. I don't know. I'm just gonna go like a day or two before the hearing. I'll stay out there for a couple of days, meet as many of you guys as I possibly can. Obviously, I'm gonna be a tourist in New York. I've been in New York once. I liked it. I'm gonna go back and be a tourist again and eat a bunch of pizza and go to Times Square and do all the stupid stuff that you do and hang out with you guys and come home. That's my plan. That's my entire plan on that.
Hey, Dane, I got a question for Dane. So, Dane, you were on vacation last week, right? Or probably for a couple weeks, I think. But what insights did you have about crypto while you were, quote, away from crypto?
Actually, I had a pretty profound one. I was talking with my little brother that does a lot of crypto with us too in our group, and he said, some of you are going to disagree with this, but I've been thinking about it a lot since he said it. He took a break for about a month from crypto, and he put everything aside. He didn't go on Twitter once. He didn't hardly look at his portfolio. He didn't do anything. And he said that the conclusion he drew from that is, he said, Dane, when was the last time you actually bought or sold anything because of information you found on Twitter? He said, seriously, when was the last time? And I was like, well, pretty well never. And he's like, right. And so on Twitter, is it feeding you? Is it useful? Or is it primarily not useful? And I said, well, I spent an obscene amount of time trying to curate my feed so it was useful. And he said, but you still aren't making any decisions based upon any of the information you're getting there, right? And I said, well, yeah. and so that was really interesting to consider how useful I actually feel Twitter is. So since he mentioned that, I haven't hardly been on Twitter, and it's actually been really interesting how much more positive I feel about crypto in general.
Oh yes, I can believe that. I can believe that.
And so it's nice, it's really nice. And Corey and I mean, we've pretty well gone all in, right? Crypto is what we do and what we've done for the last few years in building our community and whatnot, which has been really fun. And I wouldn't change any of that. What I am doing is I'm scaling back my Twitter consumption in an enormous way, because I've already found, I think Twitter and places like that are really useful before you found a community, before you've determined who are people that can actually help you and provide good information. But I've already found that. Like, I'm not getting a lot of value out of Twitter from here. And so I'll scale that back a lot.
That's a good Frank, what do you say? I know you say the Twitter, what is that? Twitter resonate. Give us that.
So I'll give people the background of it so they can understand.
Yeah.
So there's a man by the name of Dr. David Hawkins. He wrote the book Power versus Force, Eye of the Eye, Truth versus Falsehood. And he created what's called a scale for the map of consciousness. And the map of consciousness goes from 1 to 1,000. Like Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, all those dudes, 1,000 or above, right? Gandhi was in the 700s, right? 720, something like that. Bliss is 600, all right? Abraham Lincoln, 555 in the 550s. Mother Teresa in the 550s. A lot of people understand that. Like high level of consciousness. Unconditional love is 540, which is, you love everybody like you'd love your kids, right? 500 is love. Einstein calibrates at 499. Sigmund Freud, 499. Carl Jung is 520. Now you go down the scale to 200, which is integrity. Okay. So 200 on the scale, the gun itself calibrates at 200. So it's depending whoever uses it, how it's used, right? To defend or to assail, right? 190 is pride. And that is where Twitter calibrates at. So a lot of people are sensitive. What you're feeling, myself included, is when you get in that bandwidth of Twitter, you start to get a feeling that brings you down. That's your point where you go, wait, I got to step away from this, because you want to focus on, and I'm not, like everything's all great, but you want to focus on things that make you feel good. All right. that's another thing, the law of attraction, which Abraham Hicks came out with, many years ago. Your feelings are your guide. So with Twitter, you better have a helmet on, goggles, a hazmat suit, whatever you can think of when you go onto Twitter. Because if you go on there without an intention to find something specific, you're going to get like lambent. You're just going to get pummeled with stuff. So that's the one.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like, the Komodo dragon calibrates at 55. Like, well, if it's hungry, it's going to eat you. Hatred is in the 150s. So
hatred's in 150s.
Hatred's in the 150s. Yep.
So Twitter is just right above hatred, which is like one of the most evil things in humanity, right? Like you would say the devil, the definition of devil is the hatred, right? Beyond that, I guess, but like that's how I kind of comprehend.
Actually, lower than hatred is the devil. I mean, that's you're getting down to the 1 to 25 range. That's like I think Hitler. I'd have to double check. Hitler was below 100. Has some been.
Where's Pulse Chain fall on that?
What about Ink Maxis? Are Ink Maxis at 120 or are they at 1200? Like they're Ink Maxis. I just
have
don't
to
know.
refer back to the book Power versus Force for that one, or Truth versus Falsehood. Those are really great books. So, but anyway,
that's good, Frank. That's good stuff.
It is really a great way, like to just monitor yourself so you don't get caught up in all that stuff.
How do you find okay, so for example, if you watch a certain YouTube series, for example, like so say I watch Randy Holarski all the time when he streams, like is there a way to gauge what his show is as far as that? How do you do that?
Well, I've been muscle testing. It's called kinesiology and it's called muscle testing. Wow, thanks for bringing this up. This is like my wheelhouse. So this is the
I'm genuinely interested. This is good stuff.
So if you, for instance, muscle testing is a skill, right? I've been doing it almost 25 years. I learned how to do it in the late 90s. And it's this, if you're with a person, you simply hold out your arm. I mean, you have to practice at learning how to do it, but you push down on the arm and you say, my name is Frank, and it'll stay strong. If I said my name's Corey, it'll go weak. It's very simple. It's based on a book that John Diamond wrote called Your Body Doesn't Lie. And that's where David Hawkins found like, oh, wait, I see something here. And that was his revolution of creating this map of consciousness. So you can learn how to muscle test and calibrate things. And usually like you could just do it with a piece of fruit, go to the supermarket and you could muscle test and see. I use it. I muscle test on one hand, one finger. Literally, I say strong, weak, strong, weak. So you could test food and say, this strengthens me or it weakens me? That's the basic of it, or love, hate. So then you learn how to use the scale of consciousness just by doing a ton of muscle tests. Like you just learn, you do, I've done almost 1 million muscle tests. So you learn, I'm usually about, when I'm balanced, and there's a process to getting balanced with it, I'm about 98, 99% accurate on it. And I confirm that with other muscle testers. There's a group of us that muscle test.
I'm going to start texting you, Frank, and asking you to calibrate all my content that I consume.
Well, that's possible to do, number one. And that is without question is possible. And, it's possible. For me, I know sometimes I'm careful tapping it. I don't like to muscle test stuff because I know I'll get tapped into whatever's going on in something and it messes me up. So I have to be very careful. It's kind of weird, but I'm in a group. It's called the Center for Rapid Enlightenment. And Matthew Ferry wrote a book called Epic Life, Quiet Mind, Epic Life, which is MatthewFerry.com. Was in his spiritual mastermind for years. And again, it's a bunch of us that learn how to muscle test. And, you're just drawn to muscle test. It's not something that you just wake up one day and go, I'm going to muscle test. You just happen to have an interest in it and then you start doing it. But a lot of people can just use their intuition because a lot of things come to you through your intuition that instead of using muscle testing. So does that help? Probably a little bit more than everybody wanted to know.
It does, but that's still not going to stop me from texting you when I want to gauge if I should be watching this content or not. In fact, you guys just convinced me to do a break from Twitter myself.
Yeah, if you want to feel good, Dane, it's a perfect example.
It is a perfect example. It is.
I only have a few notifications on Twitter. So
Briz Salty, though, I like engaging with him on Twitter because his memes are nice and fun. They're not toxic to be it's a different type of engagement.
What's it? They're cheeky and funny, not cruel and hatred.
Yes.
I will block the hell out of everybody on this stream.
I'm surprised you haven't already.
With that 9-foot block. I think it was like who was it? 2 Fucks. What's his name? He was like, dude, your screen's like 9 foot long. You're scrolling through all the blocks.
Did you see Richard's can we mute Norbert?
Yeah, Norbert, can you mute? I got him.
Did you see Richard's tweet about blocking people?
Yeah.
Coincidentally.
Coincidentally. That's funny.
Richard doesn't read socials, but he follows Bersalti. Just joking. I don't know.
That's what you get. Okay.
I don't know. Richard made a tweet like earlier this morning about removing and blocking people on Twitter is like removing a crudely drawn penis on your garage wall. Did you guys see that tweet or no?
No, I didn't see that.
What a weird analogy.
It says hiding and blocking on X is like removing penises crudely graffitied on your garage. It's a public service. Agreed.
That sounds like personal experience. Like, who comes up with that?
Well, the last time a penis was graffitied on my garage, I went ahead. Right.
What I found fascinating yesterday when that wallet was the wallet was pumping PulseX, I immediately went to look and see what was the inverse action from the community. I didn't find one at all.
It was toxic.
Even the chats. The chats weren't even alive. Like nobody was really like it was being talked about, but nobody was like that's the level of dead the community is. That's the level of depression we're at. Is that everyone's like, oh, there's money injected. There's $20,000 being injected every 30 seconds, but like we're not really but like we're so down bad. That's like
I've been going around on Telegram, going in the back rooms, and man, there's FUD and toxicity and just disgusting, like the MFing RH. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all in the main back rooms. It's on Twitter. I'm just like,
hatred.
You guys got to be kidding me.
if there was ever a blood in the streets investor signal, that was it yesterday.
Yep.
That's actually a really interesting point. As I evaluated my own thoughts and feelings, I saw that information and I wasn't excited like when we had the big pump, right, that we got that did PulseX like a 5x from the lows. I didn't feel that at all. And it's interesting to evaluate that, Paul. Yeah.
Although Dana wasn't nearly a big green candle either.
There, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just watching the PulseX ratio. It was fun to watch that. That was changing. I think 14%. Yeah.
That shit right up, man. Funny how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But
Corey, you mentioned yesterday about decoupling the liquidity for Hex and Pulse and PulseX.
Are you trying to turn this into a FUD show?
No, but I thought that was interesting. Sprackburger, what are your thoughts on that?
Hey, can you repeat the question?
So, which I thought it would be good for Pulse Chain. Like I thought it would be good for everybody, but I don't understand.
So the sentiment is, Sprack, is that if you decouple Hex from the other three assets, via Hart's law, the other three assets would continue going up a lot easier because Hex would not be bringing it down all the time.
That's interesting. Yeah, could be, but I'd go back to which one will perform better, and you could use them against each other. But yeah,
that could be said about any of them, right? Depending upon what's performing.
Right. So, what would you say is leverage on the whole ecosystem, and then you kind of like do your risk adjusted curve on that? I don't know. I don't think I have a good answer to it, but I will say that this is like peak depression.
Yeah.
I walked in at the end of that. Did you guys say that some people are complaining about the sell pressure of Hex?
The liquidity, yeah, saying that if you decouple the liquidity from Hex away from the other RH tokens, the other RH tokens can continue going up while Hex continues to go down.
That just sounds like a salty sacrificer who was never in Hex. You know, these Ethereum guys just wouldn't quit.
Could be, but it's an interesting thought process because Hart's law is a real thing. We see it in full effect, right? And yeah, it is an interesting thought process.
Cloth or Axis could probably answer it.
Or,
I mean, the truth is, right? I mean, everyone would agree that if you just had money that was directed towards one asset, Brizology has maintained that stance forever, right? If you only had one asset where the money was directed to, then you can rally the troops. You can have more price up. But as we currently stand, you're not going to have that. And so how do you balance those? It's I would love to be in Richard's head right now, seeing how he was considering balancing the ecosystem. It's an interesting thought process.
Don't you feel like even if you did that, Hex is such a large portion of the ecosystem that it wouldn't matter because it would still affect in roundabout ways. It may just not be like 1 degree separation. It may be like 4 degree separation, but it still affect everything.
So I think you're right because we're all the same investors. We're all the same liquidity. We're all the same. It's not just in the pools. It's also outside of the pools. Yeah, I think it's a good take.
See that? This little tiny mastermind figured that out.
Paul Sachs he resonates around the 400. Frank, is that where?
I'm like in between squirrel and buffalo brain. They're both about the same size. It's somewhere
That's
in there.
About me, man.
But quick question, Sprackburger. One other question, and I could say that one thing that the common dog and the common house cat calibrate at the dog calibrates around 235 and the cat calibrates around 240. Sprackburger, which I've been meaning to ask this. What is the dog? Is this the dog with hat?
Yeah, that's kind of like just a little. What do you want to? I'm being cheeky.
What is it? Is it a coin? Is it the face of a coin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Don't you remember? That's the reason why it started. The guy said every time I would come across this, I just laugh because I was like, "It's a dog with a hat." That was a whole meme as to why that whole thing started. What he said.
Yeah.
You know the difference between cats and dogs, right? If you die in your house, a dog will not eat you. The cats will when they get hungry enough.
Is that true?
I can see that.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
I'm afraid of
Cats
dying in my
revert back.
house and having my cat eat my face.
Well, I mean,
It's morbid, but it's so true. And this is coming from somebody who has a sister that has like 6.
I got 4 cats, man. I mean, I guess I'm doomed.
Yeah.
They're little killers. Let them outside. Watch what they bring back. One of them.
We do it. They do. They bring back all kinds of lizards and birds and everything else that they can get their freaking hands on.
Things are natural hunters.
They are.
It's interesting. Huh. Well, what do you want to hit on, Corey, before we kind of, are there any other things you want to hit on before we kind of
I
round
want to
out?
hear, real quick before we wind it down. And I got to grab a lunch. It's getting late. I would love to hear Brizology's new thought process on our show yesterday when we were talking about Hex and all the versus the other assets. And he said he had a new revelation. I just want to hear that new revelation.
All right. Oh yeah. It was actually more of like, what would I do if I had to sacrifice money, right? And I don't know. I'm smoking a lot of weed, and I thought it was really funny. I was like, I really hope this doesn't leak out. I'm just gonna say, I thought it would be really funny if RH was buying up non-RH coins, and then when he finally pumps up his ecosystem, all these haters are gonna like start selling Pulse and PulseX and Hex and stuff, and they're gonna start bringing it back over to their tickers, making their tickers, rise up, right? But if I had the sacrifice money, I had already bought their coins. So as they rise it back up, I would start selling their tickers down and bringing it back into Pulse Chain. I thought that'd be pretty hilarious.
It would be.
Well,
isn't it known that a wallet associated to RH is one of the top 10 PDI holders? Is that true?
I have no idea.
And that's what this is just Twitter stuff, but that was the message yesterday of 555 PDI sold into PulseX was the warning that basically what you just said could happen.
Yeah, I would just like to say one thing about that whole Richard Hart's sending a secret message. He's messaging Richard hates conspiracy theories. What was it that Hexo had a theory that it was gonna launch December 6th or something. I forget exactly how he came up with it, but it was just basically well, based on this little piece of information, if you connect the dot to this one, Richard's trying to tell us something. And most of the time he was not trying to tell us anything. So just FYI. I mean, a 5555 transaction does seem insignificant to someone like the OA or the SAC address. But I don't know. I'd be wary about trying to connect the dots and say, hey, he's
put
trying
meaning to it. Yeah.
Put secret hidden meaning behind just random ass stuff,
That's fair. That's a good take.
So
cool.
That's all I'd like to say. So I think, like I said, I think it'd be hilarious if Richard was secretly buying up all these other tickers, and then
it wouldn't surprise me because then he could point to charts and be like, look, all the copies are pumping, like he did PDI not too long ago, and then when the timing's right, dump it back all into the to the blue chips into his tickers.
Yeah. I don't think so.
And also, PDI, I know people have a lot of research, they're like, well, look at this and look at these transactions here and all this stuff. I'm like, I ain't researching all that. I don't know if that's true or not, and I'm not gonna check your work. So all I'm saying is I find it a little ridiculous that Richard creates Hex and his 4 core assets and the Pulse chain just for people to be purchasing dollar unstable coins.
Unstable coins.
Richard's like, check it out. I got Hex. I got Pulse, PulseX, Ink. But you should be buying a stable coin that's not stable. I don't know.
The big thing everybody's waiting on. The big thing everybody's waiting on is, do the maker vaults get turned off over on Ethereum? That happens, then there's actual My stopped. Okay. Yeah. Then there's actual, motion to the wheels and speculation
Right.
that can happen. But until that, it's like it's kind of pissing in the wind a little bit.
I kind of concur with this. It's my sentiment.
If you guys gonna like buy something, like you guys gonna pump it up like 100x, like just buy the Pulse Raft Bitcoin. There's only
I own some.
150,000 of them. It's like buy that, like buy that.
Breeze has got a bag.
I was gonna say, you speaking your bag there.
Hell yeah.
If anything, I think Richard might buy a little bit of these P copies over here in the lows just to whenever. So the trickle down effect will happen even on Pulse Chain here. So once his tickers pump and then drop back down and everything rotates over into the P copies just to give those a little bit of a push when he wants. But I don't think he's buying big positions in any of them. Maybe P Maker, maybe that might be it, but I
don't even think it's that.
Yeah,
but
just imagine if you bought like $100,000 of all the top competitors on Pulse Chain, or all the most successful shit talkers.
Yeah. And then he vampire attacked and brought it all back into Pulse X.
As soon as they vampire attack him, he vampire attacks back. Richard becomes Blade.
Yeah.
Give me back that money. Give me back that market cap.
That's right. All right, guys, I've got to jump off. Corey, are we good? Do you guys?
I got to jump off too. Yeah, I got to grab some lunch. I got 15 minutes for my next meeting. We'll be back here next week, guys. We're back in the saddle. Yeah, that's it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I see a lot of Twitter guys on here watching. Come over and hit like and subscribe. Help boost our algorithms so we can keep bringing the good word of Pulse Chain to crypto, guys. And this has been a fun show. This is good.
Yep. Cool, guys. We'll catch you later.
Peace.
Peace.